I am Dravon James, and I'm here with
Keisha Dixon.
And we are so excited today to talk about something that we've just enjoyed, which was a Netflix special, original miniseries on loosely based on the life of Madam C.J. Walker, and why I never can remember the exact title. What was the exact title?
Self-Made, inspired by the life of Madam C.J. Walker.
Right, and I love the part where it says inspired by the life of Madam C.J. Walker, because that lets us know that it is not intended to be historically accurate. I heard some criticism about that, and yeah, so it did not bother me that it was not historically accurate. I realized going into it that it was not a documentary, and I was okay with that. In fact, I was there to just enjoy the entertainment, and I thought it was really entertaining. So that's my overall. How about you, Keisha?
Oh, I absolutely enjoyed the story and the storyline so much. I found it entertaining. And then there were a lot of things you and I were discussing on Sunday. There were a lot of things that made us pause and go, oh, and take a look at the mindset that was behind the story. And that's part of what we wanted to discuss today.
Yeah. And that's usually, for me, to be honest, that's usually the mark for me of when I'm really watching a good movie or a good show, is that when I can pick up these themes and I can learn something more about myself, more about the journey of life, just something I can take away. And there were so many things that in that story that I took away as, aha, change that, aha, check that, used to do that, aha, do. So it was all these aha moments for me. And I was talking to my dear friend Keisha, and she had those too. And we thought, let me come on here, do a live, and talk about what we saw. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I don't know. You want to go first with the theme, and or how do you want to do
that? Either way is fine. You know, I broke down my notes by, there were four episodes in this mini series, and so I broke down my notes by episode.
And so okay, so and I didn't. I just wrote down what was on my heart. So let's go with episode one. I'm sure it's something in my notes.
So with episode one, what really stood out to me is telling the story for the win. The moment Sarah, Madam C.J. Walker, was able to tell her story, embrace her story, irregardless of what everyone externally had said to her, and irregardless of how she may have felt internally, she was able to magnetize people to her. They were drawn in by her vulnerable share of her story.
And that was what I took away from it. I love that, tell the story for the win, because I realized that as I watched that show, you know, you and I both, I'm an inspirational speaker, you're an inspirational speaker. And I realized what it reinforced something that I always know, that people connect with your story. And I think for me, for so many years, that was the thing that I had so much discomfort with, was my story. Because one, there were times when I review my story and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This didn't really happen. Yeah, it really happened. And then I think that I still had this shame around my story. You know, that, and that too, I didn't own the story entirely, right? No man is an island. No man is unto himself. John Donne said that, right? That so, and I felt like my story impacted so many other people's lives, and who was I? Who was I to disclose this? You know, in the Black community, at least in my home, maybe somebody can relate to this. We are raised that you take that story to the grave. You don't tell anybody your business, right? You better keep this business in this house. What goes on in this house stays in this house, right? And so I was really uncomfortable with that, telling my story. Now, over the years, I've become more and more comfortable, but I really loved how she embraced that story.
She did. And she was sharing some really vulnerable moments like her husband calling her a mangy dog, and then stabbing her with a broken bottle, and her still begging him to stay, and stories of shame and believing she had so little beauty, and she just told it.
Girl, right, all of that, right? I was hooked from that moment, because and I know we're all prim and proper, we're all accomplished now, but there was a time, right? And I remember it clearly when you really felt, love was synonymous with pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here you have just insulted me. You called me out of my name at my weakest moment. Here she was, her hair had fallen out. She's a washerwoman, back then washing clothes would lie. You can imagine what that did with your hands. And I'm doing all of this, and I'm gonna say it in 2020. We were way back then, and we knew it took two incomes. But I'm doing all of this and trying to still be feminine, taking on this masculine role, and it's a hard work job that I'm doing, and it has stripped her of her femininity, and he called her out on it. You mangy dog, right?
Yes.
Insult to injury, right?
Absolutely.
Oh my God. It just went straight to my heart. But then she asked him not to go.
She begged him not
to. Right?
Yeah.
Now, ladies, if we're listening to this, I know in 2020, it's still happening.
Mm.
And maybe it's not, that name calling, but it's that thing, that someone that needs to go, right? That's what got me it just tugged at my heart, because we've all, well, I can't say we've all, I know I've been there. I've been at that place in my life where the thing is telling you with their behavior and their words, I'm leaving, and you're saying, no, not yet. I'm not ready yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I found for me, certainly that had been my experience in the past as well. And then I became a certain age. I'm not even sure exactly what age that was, but there was a moment where I realized, I'm allergic to this stuff right here. You have to go. You have to go. Mm-hmm.
And I applaud that too. I think I see that a lot in younger women, a lot earlier. So I applaud that evolution of a mindset. I know we're not all monolithic, as women. We all get to that point earlier, and some of us, whatever, we all get there at our own season. But as a rule, when I listen to younger women talk, whether it be at the hair salon or at gatherings, I hear this sort of mindset, like, okay, well, next.
Mm-hmm.
Not putting up with that, and so that I just applaud that. But I did relate to that part of the story, in just that stripping of what little femininity that she had left, that was really attached to having this significant other, right? And I know that's a very vulnerable thing to say, because we don't want to say that our self-image is attached to whose arm we're on. That's not in vogue in 2020, but there was a time, I can say in my life anyway, that I really did feel like, oh my gosh, it's such an honor and a privilege, right? You grew up. I grew up.
I mean, yeah, it certainly can be an honor to be with someone who you're evenly yoked with. The privilege is theirs, of course.
Right. Exactly, right. But and that is, but I would say that you hear that, but knowing and hearing something is two different things, right? At least it was for me in my experience, right? To realize that, I think later than earlier, I came into the realization is I am the prize.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And in the storyline, that seemed to be Sarah's, or Madam C.J. Walker's, deepest wounding, seeking that external validation that she was enough, that she was pretty enough, feminine enough, woman enough. That seemed to be an ongoing theme throughout the storyline.
Yeah, I have that in here too, that I am not enough. That was a story that she was continually telling herself. And so, I told you, I watched this with so many themes in my mind as I watched it. And I remember in that opening episode saying to myself that I am hope, and I'm so proud of the job that I did with teaching my daughter all along, that you are the prize.
That's right.
First to yourself, treat yourself as the prize. And I think, and I would love to all women to realize that see yourself as enough in this moment. Not that you're saying, I can't evolve, I can't better myself. Of course we all can. No one's reached perfection. But if you have that attitude, which I thought that was prevalent throughout her entire experience, is that she was not enough. She, Sarah Breedlove, was not enough. Madam C.J. Walker was extraordinary, but she, underneath all the bravado, she had this underlying theme running in her mind: I am not enough.
Yeah, and she constantly battled with that theme because there's so many scenes with her in a boxing ring, and whether or not Addie was the other person in the boxing ring, the fight was really her own. She was fighting this internal battle within herself of not enoughness, of competition, of feeling less than.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have that on my notes, that the boxing scenes for me depicted a viewpoint that she had, and many women do, probably many people do, but it was the world versus Sarah Breedlove.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was her. That it was, the world versus her. That's how she felt, and that that loneliness, everything and everyone was coming against her.
Yes. Yeah. And even though it looked like she was fighting, it really was this story that's coming from a place of victimhood. Yeah.
And that leads me to another thing that I had too, that when you brace yourself to fight, you'll always find something to fight. Right?
That's right.
I am not a person who believes that, I gotta fight my way to the top. No. That fighter energy only draws more stuff for you to fight. I think it was, oh gosh, we're talking about fictional movie, but it'll come to me. But anyway, I remember reading one time a while back about if you have this mindset of fighting, and it's a nun. She's famous. Gosh,
Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa, my goodness, Mother Teresa. And I read this quote that she said, I never forgot it, forgot her name, but I never forgot the quote, which was that when you have a rally that is for something, I'll show up. I do not show up for rallies that are fighting against things. And I just was and I'm paraphrasing it, but I was just forever changed by that. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to stand here and be against anything. What are we for? Right.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And that's universal law. What you focus on is what you attract. If you're focusing on the battle, the fight, the struggle, you're going to attract the battle, the fight, the struggle.
Yeah. And if that's your energy, that's the space you want to spend your life in, that's fine. No criticism there, but I just think it is an easier way to do a lot of things. And obviously it did not stop her from being successful. Right. Mm-hmm. And that was another theme. I got to tell you, I went through my entire pharmacy career with that mindset. It was fear-based mindset. I was like, I am not going back, to the beginning of this journey of mine in life. I'm moving forward, and I felt like I just got to fight my way through these studies and fight my way. And, like I said, I read that quote and I thought, the fight stops here. I'm now going to move into receiver mode.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else come up for you from the first episode?
Always just on the first episode? There was a lot. So yeah, I didn't have mine broken down by episodes. I'll let you lead us into the next one.
Okay. All right. So the second episode was called Bootstraps. And I love the title of that. And that's basically her story, right? Just pulling herself up at the bootstraps. So right from the beginning, she said, dreams are God's way of showing plans. And I love that. That's that whole mindset of write the vision and make it plain, right? And she truly believed that, and I believe this too, that the dreams that are implanted in us, the dreams that we capture, are not placed there so that we don't accomplish it. That would be insanity. That would be insanity.
And it would be cruel.
And it would be cruel.
You do not serve a cruel God.
Right. And it's exactly. And so dreams are God's way of showing plans. And then she goes on to say, light a match on what you want. Dreaming it and writing it down and making it plain isn't enough. Then you have to start walking that thing out. You got to walk that thing out, which means show up, implement, right? Take some action.
Right.
Take
So
some
that
action.
that Bible verse that you were saying, write the vision and make it plain. And I don't, it's in Habakkuk. I don't remember the
Yeah,
exact chapter.
yeah.
Write the vision, make it plain, so that the people will run. Right. And so that was so that's the, you know, the dream, right? And then
Right.
you get a plan. But the running part is the execution of that thing, right?
That's right.
It's not enough to visualize and to have these great affirmations. Those things are lighting the match, right?
Yeah, and also I love that you added the verse or the part of the verse, so that the people will run. In other words, you're getting the vision, you're making it plain, which means you believe the vision, which means you are stating it out loud, so
Yes.
that everything else and everybody else will run and fall in line with what's been implanted in you, because you're excited about the goal, you're communicating the goal, you're leading the vision, you're leading the charge, and that is magnetic. That excites other people who are supposed to be part of this dream, whether it's through their support, their collaboration, their network, whatever it is. But
Right.
no one's going to know how they can support you, how they can collaborate with you, how they can network with you if you keep it to yourself. So many people, well, I shouldn't say so many people. There are people out there who will receive a dream, will receive a vision, and they will keep it to themselves. They're not living their life poured out. They're not living in overflow. That is
Mhm.
scarcity, and that is fear mentality that, oh, if I say something, someone else will get it.
Oh my goodness. And right, so this is bootstraps, right? And I agree with that. So many people keep their dream and their vision hidden for a lot of reasons. And one of the things that they're really afraid of the story of the bootstraps. We
Yeah.
do know that Madam C.J. Walker was born into slavery, right? Both of her parents were slaves, right? And so, and I take that to, all of these themes, I'm telling you, they were so relevant, because a lot of times people feel like, well, who am I to tell somebody about something? And I got to tell you, that was my story. I worked on Everyday Peace before it even was called Everyday Peace, when I was 17 years old, and not knowing it, but getting ready to go into another bout of homelessness in college. I had my brother gave me this book, The Power of Positive Thinking. And I started feverishly taking notes on it and had journals on it, was reading everything I could. And I, in college, wanted to do a talk for students like myself. I didn't know anybody who was homeless, but I knew students who were struggling. And I thought, who's gonna listen to you? You don't have two nickels to rub together, right? And it was this whole thing about, I had the dream, I had the vision, and that was over 30 years ago. I had the dream, I had the vision, but it was because of where I came from and what my current situation was on paper, right? That I didn't have the tenacity, or maybe not even tenacity, the courage to say, never mind what my situation is here. I got something I want to talk to you about. I got something I want to tell you. And I don't know if, when she got out there, according to the movie, according to the show, when she got out there and she started selling her hair products, her hair was not all broken off like it was before. So she had achieved some modicum of success. But I want to encourage people right now in your nowness, right? I know that's probably not even a word. In your
It is
now,
now.
whatever your situation is right now, because not only will you be an encouragement to somebody else, but your action right now will encourage you. It'll boomerang back and encourage you. And I just want to say one thing further. So I was already a pharmacist and already doing my thing. And I still was working on Everyday Peace, had a little handheld recorder that, you guys, we were in the 90s. And I was recording things and writing things. And I remember, I can't remember the exact year, but I met someone who actually has been on my radio program, Reverend Q. I was talking to him about it, and he said, why aren't you doing this? And I said to him, because I'm not a huge success yet. He said, no. You got to start doing this now. And so even still, I'm just saying, if you have that mindset, that you're waiting for your life to be perfect before you launch, stop that.
Yeah.
Stop. Write the vision. You got the dream. Make it plain. Step number one, do something. And then the universe will start turning with you and things will start happening. So I got all that from watching that. It took me back to just thinking about that time period in my life. And if I had never, ever decided to just, now is the moment, make a video, write a book, I would still be, not doing this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know we're talking about self-made, the story of inspired by Madam C.J. Walker. But when you mentioned homelessness and you had this message of everyday peace, which you are now walking in, and you had it 3 decades ago, it reminds me of something I recently heard from Eckhart Tolle. When he first started his awakening, he lived on a park bench, I think he said, for a year. Yeah. And he
all those things are adding up to the magical you, right? The magical you. So,
that's right. It's our story that contains the victory. Our story, the journey, the whole journey is what contains the victory.
Yeah, your power is in this story, the story of you.
Absolutely. So let me look at my notes for the bootstrap. Oh, okay. Yeah, she enthusiastically shared her goals. Also, it was so evident that her showing up was so important. She showed up for herself, and she showed up for her dream, and she showed up prepared.
Mm-hmm. And I just want to spend 1 second on that preparedness, because I know people who've been researching, you know who you are, been researching your dream for the last 15 years. You are ready to launch. So don't get stuck on you doing another thing. And it's okay to better yourself. It's okay to better yourself, but don't get stuck closet reading another thing before you launch. Do launch. And one thing too, I don't know if I missed this from episode 1, but I do want to say this, is that it wasn't easy. People didn't just gravitate to her all of a sudden. She was out there for a while trying to peddle that hair grease, and people were just walking by, right? So just because you don't have instantaneous success does not mean you will not be successful.
Yes, absolutely. Create your own platform. Can we talk about Booker T. Washington?
Oh my gosh. Oh,
yes.
I have not read the book. I've not read the book, but I would love to. And I'm truly hoping that it didn't happen exactly like that. But oh my goodness.
She showed up. She went to Booker T. Washington's event, which was a big deal. She wanted to get the endorsement from Booker T. Washington. She had all of these men going out attempting to get the endorsement from Booker T. Washington for her. Yeah. And she didn't get it. She didn't get the endorsement from him. Instead, Addie was pranced on the stage, and that kind of segues into the next point. Just because somebody looks like they're up in front doesn't mean that they're ahead of you.
Keep your eye on right? Because Addie just got out there to sell some raffle tickets, right?
Well, and Addie was disappointed about that too. Addie thought it was something else entirely.
Right, and I would say this too. There is nothing wrong with being of service, not that at all. But I mean, I got a lot from this too, because when Booker T. Washington announced that a woman was going to be there representing, and Madam C.J. Walker stood up, right? She stood up. And so and then she, her husband set her back down. Yeah. So what I got from that though is that don't let any mistake you think that you have ever made, from your mouth, from your actions, from whatever, stop you from taking your next correct course of action, whatever you think the next best thing to do is that the universe has put on your heart to do. Because can you imagine, and it's a movie, right? So we're thinking we just brush that off. but I've been in some situations and you say to yourself, okay, well, that was embarrassing. And then there's a temptation to crawl back into a little hole, right? For somebody to say, well, you know what? You need to go and you need to about another year or 2 or 3, you're not ready yet. And I love how she bounced right. She walked out, no, I'm going to do this today. Even with that, I loved it. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
So she, here's the thing. She wanted to get the endorsement, but the final destination, the reason she wanted the endorsement was so that she could get investors so she could open her factory. I love that she jumped up when Booker T. Washington started talking about a woman business owner. Even though she was sat back down, the fact that she was in expectancy. She expected that this was hers. This was her desire. This was her desire. This is what she wanted. Ultimately, what she wanted was the investment. That really was the goal. And she was in expectancy. And so she immediately stood up and she was sat back down. But what she did next was awesome. She disrupted that program. She disrupted that program. I don't remember if it was the exact next scene, but she got up on that stage and interrupted the status quo. And she created her own platform in that moment. She was called out on it, but she did the thing. She did it and apologized afterwards. She didn't look for permission. In that moment, she was walking in her authority and stopped looking for permission and apologized later.
Yeah. I think I don't know if it's the Navy, you guys don't shoot me if I'm wrong. I'm patriotic, but I get these things mixed up sometimes. But a friend of mine, I've got friends in all branches of the military, but in the Navy told me that they had this slogan, better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Right.
And when I heard that, I'd never heard that. I was just fascinated by that. I was like, whoa, okay. And he was like, oh yeah, go ahead and do what you're going to do. He said, ask for forgiveness.
That's
right. And I love the fact that she said, and it was to me about more. I know she interrupted Booker T. Washington. She got on the stage, but sometimes you got to interrupt the story that's in your head, what you're telling yourself. You got to pause that for a second. You have to speak louder than your doubt, than your fear, than your past. You got to speak louder to yourself. You got to interrupt that story. And that's what I saw in that moment. And then, I've done that for myself sometimes and stepped out. I do it continually. But what happens is exactly what happened afterwards. And Booker T. Washington said, can I speak to you for a minute? Right? And then, when I get alone, my ego, the part of me that is so frightened of so many new experiences starts to speak to me and say, now, you shouldn't have told them people that about you. Or, you shouldn't have spoke so loud. You should have held back on that. That's going to come back to get you. Right. That's what Booker T. Washington essentially did to her, is sometimes what our ego does to us after we step out of our comfort zone and we do something that we feel is necessary for our next level of greatness. Our ego gets scared and says, okay, he tries to shame you, and that's what Booker T. Washington did. He said to her, we're not going to have these women making more money than the men. The men need to make this money, and just really tried to shame her and put her back in her place.
Yeah, shame is designed to stop you in your tracks. And yet, because she moved in expectancy, because she kept taking action, because she disrupted the program, because she got over any fear and self-doubt and self-consciousness and created her own platform, in that moment, she got her goal. She got her investment. It may not have happened the way she had mapped out step by step, but it absolutely happened.
And that is a universal principle, right? If you know universal laws, we're always taught that you make the vision, as Keisha said, the vision, make it plain, write the vision, make it plain. But after that, you let it go. You let it go and let the universe do its work. Don't get wedded in the process and what has to happen next. You just do what the next thing you're led to do. So she was led to go up there and she was led to go to Booker T. Washington to get the investors. That didn't necessarily happen that way. I think it was in that same episode where the funeral home tried to rape her.
Yeah. Yeah. So she experienced all these. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, so don't state what you want, get your plan together, but then be flexible in the way that you allow, in the way that we allow the universe to deliver it to us. Because that was just ridiculous with that funeral parlor guy. I was like, oh, you got to give him no pop pop. He was just that's ridiculous.
Yeah. She experienced trauma after trauma, gold trauma after gold trauma, in trying to in reaching for this goal, and during this journey of getting to the goal of getting the investors for the factory. And she did not sit in those traumas. She kept going. She just kept going. She kept going.
Yeah. And I wonder, going back to our initial theme, that had she had what we have today, which is the ability to have these dialogues in these open forums and so much information about universal law and how things work, I wonder if she had let go of that fighter mechanism, would she have still had so much to fight? Now, not to say that you wouldn't have had hardship, because we've all endured hardship and a lot of us are enduring it right now. But I just wonder how much of that was because of the energy that she was pushing out there, because she had a dynamic product. She had a dynamic mind for business. She had a dynamic team building mind too. I love teams. You guys don't know that about me. I love collaborations and teams. And she was putting together a fabulous team, but she was still constantly having these battle royales, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What else did I pick up from this? Yeah, the whole theme of when Booker T. Washington's wife had said something very powerful. I wrote it down to Addie. Don't mistake us for victims. Right? Irregardless of where you see yourself sitting, don't fall for the line, oh yeah, you're a victim. And she opened up her mouth and don't mistake us for victims. We're not victims. And that very same non-victim is the one who rallied the women to invest in Sarah.
Sure did, right? So that investment was coming. The universe had already put that in action. But I love that. Don't mistake us for victims.
That's right. Right.
And I believe that a lot of times we too easily mistake ourselves as victims. Just because we've been through something doesn't make us a victim. When you get to tell the story in retrospective, as a retrospective, that makes you the victor.
That's right.
I'm the girl telling you how it was.
That's right.
It makes you the victor.
And which means that you are every single day walking out your hero's journey. That's what you're doing
every day.
You're walking out your hero's journey.
I love it. I gotta write that down. Walking out your hero's journey.
Yes. Okay, so again, telling her story on that stage released her from the vow of invisibility, right? She was able to share vulnerably, and she was able to share her truth from the stage. She created her own platform and created her own opportunity.
Right. Yep.
And so she did it, and we move on to episode 3, The Walker Girl.
What you gonna do when your heroes do not look like you?
Go ahead, you take it. I like what you're saying. What you gonna do?
When your heroes do not look like you, the only thing you can do is look in your own mirror and proclaim yourself the hero. Right? Yeah. You have to. I just thought it was, and I know it was just a story and it's all fictional, but the fact that CJ had the nerve to draw a woman to put on her product that did not resemble her, I was like, oh, you got to leave today.
Yes.
Let me say this too, and I like CJ. We haven't talked about CJ a lot, but and I know the story historically, a little bit of it. The real CJ was not quite the same personality type that they played out in the storyline from the miniseries, but I did appreciate his character from the miniseries, especially when he came in and she was upset. Going back to episode 1, I believe, when she was upset, his attitude to her. That line just really got to me. Even in your Sunday's best, looked like you just walked off the slave plantation.
Yeah.
And she was crying, and he walked in and he held her. Just nice clothing. So he was about his business. He was working a job. So I really did like CJ. I know he was not the perfect man. Turned out not to be the perfect man, but he had his reasons, I'm sure.
I didn't care for him.
Even in the beginning when he came in, oh, I did. I thought he had promise when he came in there and he had his suit on. And now I think I heard that in real life he may have been into real estate, but I think back then in the show anyway, he was a newspaper ad man. And I thought it was a hard time for a Black man to get a job. And he had the beautiful, clothing on, and he was in love with her. And yeah, I did. I liked him.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I feel like well, there were insecurities there. He wasn't completely transparent with her. And then the affair with someone so close to her. And he knew, this is why I didn't care for him.
Not even towards the end, I gotta agree. As the story went on, I didn't care for him. But even in the beginning, you didn't like him. Had you figured him out in the beginning?
No, I hadn't figured him out in the beginning. But I'm just as a whole, yeah, I don't care for him because of how that ended. He knew her deepest wounding. He knew what would hurt her most.
Oh, then yeah. And
I guess all the women in the world he could have had an affair with, he had to pick her top salesperson who had already betrayed her. I was done.
Right. And I gotta say, as CJ became more apparent to me, his character, I began to dislike him. And in the end, I did dislike him for a number of reasons. I know we're digressing, but that was and the fact that she had confided all of her softness and all of her vulnerability, and he took every bit of it to hurt her. And so
while spending her money.
Right. Oh yes, and while spending her money, and and when he told about the formula and how everything, so he did end up to be somewhat of a rat to me. Yeah. That's a complete rat to me. But I will say in the beginning, this is where the tip-off was for me about Mr. CJ, when they made the transition to the new town and they were going to do the products there. And oh, this is a piece of my soul coming out on this show. When I know that he was helping her with the business. I know that. I understand that. But darling, you're going to have to get a job. When you were all just in here living off of what we're going to do with this business, and it has not yet come to what it's going to be. And I appreciate it when he said at some point, Sarah, I'm going to go down to the hotel and get a job as I don't know what it was called back then, a bellhop or something of that nature. And I felt like he should have done that. Now, Sarah was busy building that business, and I just felt like it would have, that bothered me that he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A lot of, I wasn't thrilled with him, but it is a story.
He was a little disappointing after that episode, but I did like the way he held her and told her she was beautiful. That's soft.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's hard for me. But I will say, in this episode, the Walker girl, I was disappointed with Sarah as well. Because when he brought up the Walker girl and with the picture and everything, that she had the opportunity to say no and to hold her boundary and to say a yes to herself. But instead of doing that, she told CJ, I had to write this down because I was blown away. CJ, it's a good campaign, rather than speaking her mind. And then she passive-aggressively said something like, oh, but it should say the whole world instead, to just kind of give a little dig, rather than standing in her power and saying, yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I felt that too, and I was hoping that she was going to say that, but I connected with that too when she couldn't say it. And I have had, maybe somebody, one of our viewers can admit to, or can connect to this. I've had moments in my life where the pain has been so real that I have not been comfortable with being as honest as I should be in that moment, because I really had to deal with what I'm feeling in this moment to really say, Dravon, is that wound still oozing that much? You still can't talk about this. I can't. I know that what you just did or what you just said or what just happened here has really struck a chord with me that is so painful that the only thing I have in me right now are tears. I'm not going to cry here. So I'm going to plaster on a smile and say, we'll get back to that. Right? So I identified with her, and I was in, yeah, I felt like that was very realistic from my life. It's like, this hurts too much for me to deal with it right now.
Yeah. And when you said, and we'll get back to that, okay, that's a healthy response, like, oh, let me put a little bubble around this right now.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that. But I'm not going to let this go. I am going to have the courageous conversation. I feel that one action in this story completely created a snowball effect of sabotage. When she didn't speak up for herself, when she didn't hold her boundary, that caused a whole bunch of stuff to happen in the end, like CJ walking in drunk, sabotaging the factory meeting.
But do you think also that she could have, this is something else I thought too in that moment, because at that moment, CJ seemed to me, and we're talking about the movie, not the historical parts. I do know his many flaws. But at that point, he seemed, remember his father had said to him in a previous episode, oh, every time you talk about this company, CJ, she says, you say our company, she says my company, right? I thought that was significant too, that that she referred to it as my company, and he referred to it as our company. And I think, when somebody plants a seed in your head, that seed was planted, that Sarah may not be as committed to this company, me being a part of it, as I want her to be, or as I believe that she is. But I think that maybe she even knew that he was maybe kind of in a place of vulnerability himself, feeling like he did have a job back when they were. He was an admin back then. He gave up that, followed her, and maybe she just didn't want to hurt his feelings. I don't know. She just, I can't hurt you. I don't know.
I think the way the storyline played out, she absolutely believed that she had to be the savior of the entire company. She had even said to her attorney general type person, general counsel, man, I can't remember his name, that oh, nobody can sell this the way I can sell this. She truly believed that it was her company, that she had to be independent in this, and she was the one to make all of the decisions. So I think that Cleophas, the dad, I think he was right. I think that, yeah, she did believe it was her company and not CJ's company.
Yes. So I would just say this is for me, if I were CJ, I'm not so sure that if I was CJ and I had integrity, I'm not so sure that I would have given up everything to follow her on her journey. And I know that we as women do that a lot. We give up everything to follow a man on their journey. And, you can feel the same way about that too. But I just felt like that was maybe a blow to his ego. He was all in, and then you kept referring to it as yours, as yours, as yours. Yeah. And that was also something going on with him, that he never addressed that with her.
That's right. That's right.
At what point are you going to add, you gave up all of this, whatever this was. I don't know how much he had. Clearly he didn't have that much because he was living in her house,
No. Well, before they moved to his father's house? Yeah.
When they were back home, and he said he got a letter from his sister and how things were, I think it was in St. Louis, and he said, I'm not moving to St. Louis. And then she said, she, did what women do, and in her mind, yeah, we're going to St. Louis. But that same house, the little shack they were living in, it looked to me to be the same shack where the man who called her the mangy dog left.
Yeah, and she was still a washerwoman at that time. And his father had said it. I can't remember if it was in the Walker Girl episode I think it was. Yeah. In the Walker Girl episode, his father had said, men like you and me, we need a woman to sustain us or something like that.
Yeah, and I didn't take that as a bad thing though. I took that when he said that. I didn't take it as we needed a woman to provide for us financially. I think that to me, the way I felt he was delivering that line, because remember before that he was talking to his son about, you gonna mess up leave this girl that you're messing around with. Do not do this, right? It's an admonition that I'm telling you. And I don't know if he had already told the story about his wife. They were on different slave plantations and how.
Yes, that's when he said that. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I took that as him saying, it is a good woman, the soul of a good woman that helps us prosper as men. Not necessarily there's the sweat in their back, right, breaking work or the money that she has, but a soul of a good woman. Without this, you will perish, CJ. And that's how I took it, as that he was warning him, you lose this good woman, so.
Then what?
but it did bother me that she did never refer to, but she knew him better than we did as viewers.
Absolutely. And for me, the whole theme of this entire episode to the end was, not everyone can come with you. You can't take everyone with you.
Everything has a beginning and everything has an end. And CJ, this is where you get off the track.
Yes. This is, and he had to get off. He made his bed and then he had to lie in it.
Now, is this the episode where I just so angry at him, where he came up to the porch, gave her the ring, I don't remember the phrase that she said, but I want to write it down. I rewinded like 3 times to hear her say that about how you don't go back. So it was something about how he came and she said, I just not gonna move backwards. And then did he get off that porch and curse her?
Yes.
I was like, excuse you, Mr. CJ, but good night and goodbye, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, you're not even sincere. So if that little stunt that you pulled, and we're not even gonna talk about how you're gonna come out the closet and
not even try to hide the fact that you just slept with this woman.
No shoes on, hair messed up, and gonna say, I've been here
child disheveled.
I just trembled at that, because I said, you've already disrespected this woman. Go ahead and stay in that wardrobe closet until she leaves. How dare you show her that she is absolutely worthy of no respect from anyone. And
while he didn't sleep with her nemesis, Addie, he may as well have, because he literally slept with a woman who looked like his version of the Walker Girl.
Right, exactly. And that was, and it was evident. I don't know how it was, but it was evident to me that all that she was just such a powerful actress. Octavia just did a wonderful job on that. But I felt at that moment that when he got off that porch and he cursed her after she didn't take the ring, that was just a con artist thing. You were just going to say whatever you want. There was no remorse, no regret, only that the gravy train had ended for you, Mr. CJ.
Yeah. So he used the gravy train money to buy a ring.
Oh my gosh, he ended up being such a heel. I gotta say, I did like him in the beginning, but as his story character unfolded, when he said that he was staying in the hotel in New York and she was paying for it. I'm like, how can the other woman still want you when the old woman's still paying for you? I mean, what is she thinking? I
know. But honestly, what we're talking about here is, I liked him so much in the beginning. It's what so many of us just hold on to. Those the beginning, the honeymoon phase and those things. We hold on to that. Oh, yes, he must love me. And you hear 10 years later, he's beating your butt. Honey, let go of the former story and be present.
Okay, go ahead and preach. Go ahead and preach, because you are just, what did we used to say in the 80s? You're just dropping knowledge. Because that is so
Yeah.
true. You're still holding on. And that, and I gotta tell you, I was completely turned by the end. But you're still holding on to that vivid memory of what it was instead of dealing with what it is.
Exactly.
And who he is in this moment. By choice, no matter what those choices are, because all of us have backstory. We all have back pain. Not back pain literally, but we all have pain in our past and a story from our past. And we can do with that story whatever we want to do with it. I know CJ's story was not told. I'm sure he had a hard life too. But what he chose to do with that hard life that he had was make somebody else's life hard.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by not everyone can come along. You bless them where they are on their journey, but sometimes it's time for the separation. And once she separated and moved to New York, she blew up in a way she never would have had with the factory in Indianapolis.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, she just, and that, here's another theme, right? You can't go where you're meant to go if you're insistent upon staying where you are.
Yes.
Right? You cannot go where you're meant to go if you insist upon staying where you are. Change will be necessary for the journey to continue.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a good episode.
Good.
And the fourth and final yes, called A Credit to the Race. Okay. So in this, she is in New York, successful, building a mansion next to the Rockefeller estate. And she has kidney failure.
So sad. At 51 died, right? She's 51. 51 when she died. And I gotta say this, I haven't talked about this theme, but it really was evident to me here in this final episode, is that in order for you to have a brilliant life, you must have balance. And what was running theme for me in Madam C.J. Walker's life was the lack of balance. Everything that they depicted in the story, again, not historically accurate, but for television purposes, everything that was depicted there was based around the premise of a successful business, right? So if you follow my model in Everyday Peace, I divide life up into our desires anyway, into health, wealth, and relationships. Her wealth category of this triangle, this prism, the wealth section of it was blowing up. It was huge. It was, right? Her health, by episode 4, she had kidney failure. She was in kidney failure, kidney disease, right? Her relationships, what relationships were they? At least in the movie, I know if we read the book or otherwise, but in the episode, what relationships did she have that were not connected to making money?
Her daughter, the relationship with her daughter. Mm-hmm.
The only one. So to me, she was severely deficient in her health, obviously, and in her relationship category. Yes. You can't have a brilliant life if you don't have all these three: health, wealth, and relationship prosperity in all three. And that was a running theme for me, is that, Sarah Breedlove, the woman, right? The woman was not getting any attention. Madam C.J. Walker was larger than life, but it was not enough to sustain a brilliant life.
That's right. That's right. Now she was a millionaire. She made lots of money.
Yeah, fancy clothes, big house.
Yeah. And at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm not snubbing my nose at that.
Those are all
I would love
it. Yeah, those are all great things. And at the end of the day, she, like you were saying, she did not have balance. And this was the episode when her reputation was being attempted to be slandered. by Addie. Addie came back in the picture and accused her of stealing the formula.
And that piece of information was given to her. She gave it to her husband, right? She was vulnerable with him and shared with him, and he gave it to his lover.
Yes.
To use as leverage against her. Oh,
yes.
CJ, shame on you.
Shame on you, CJ. But I'll tell you what, it was a defining moment for Sarah Breedlove, because at one point in this episode, I wrote it down because I was like, good for you. You confronted your demons. You took a look at the shadow. You faced the accusations and you brought it to light. And she told Addie, I can admit I stole your formula and I made it better. What can you do with that? What can you do with that?
Is that the story you want to tell everybody? You want to walk around and tell them?
What can you do with that? When you take those secret things, those dark things, those things that you've stuffed down and hidden away and prayed, oh God, please don't let this fateful day come where somebody finds out that I'm a fraud. And you bring that to the light. What can you do with that? That's the moment someone could call you a thief and you're like, yeah, you know what? I stole something. And it can't shake you from who you are.
You know, I love that. And I think that right there, that is, I mean, that's the whole point of this whole episode, the 4th episode to me is to say, you know, this that I thought would kill me if anybody ever found out. You know, in the Bible, it says, death, where is your sting? Right?
Where is thy sting?
So, where is thy sting? So here it is, this thing that she thought would bring death to her reputation, death to her company, right? Death to her goals. And Addie comes and faces her and says, you know, I stand here as an accuser of you. You stole from me. And it would have been very easy for her to say, prove it. But she didn't. She, you know, what do I have to lose? Yes, I did do that. I mean, you know, none of us wants to be a thief, or as I remember my son, I digress, he was about 6 years old, and one of little boy he used to play with stole his little cars or whatever off the deck. And so my son went to confront him, you know, he's a 6-year-old, and the boy said, I ain't no stealer. And when I saw that episode here, and I had that moment where I said, oh, is she going to stand up here and say, I ain't no stealer? But, you know, and I love the fact that she stood there and she owned it. And she said, yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
And here's the thing. Yes. In episode 1, she called it borrowing, right? She took Addie's product and sold it and brought her back the money. Now, the product that she had, they didn't say if she took it from Addie's shelf or if it's product that she had already purchased from Addie. She didn't steal that. She certainly used the idea. She certainly used it as a base product to springboard her own product off of it, but it wasn't the same formula. She went through lots of different formulas before she landed on the one that she had. Did she get the idea from Addie? Yeah, absolutely. That was her.
And I did a little research on that Anne Malone's formula.
Annie Malone.
Annie Malone. And what I found is that the formula is at least what it says, that the formula was a common formula used. And I don't know how, you know, obviously I don't know how truthful that is. But, you know, it's just like if you were, I don't know, I make homemade French fries. I like to make homemade French fries, but I don't, you know, it's lots of people making homemade French fries, and so, or French fries anywhere. So people were using that formula, making their own pancake batter, if you will. And then you just happen to become very, very successful. You add some blueberries to yours, and now you become very, very successful. So I don't think it was that major of a deal. I think for me, though, maybe it's just my personality flaw. I probably would have apologized.
Yeah.
I probably would have just said, I apologize to you, you know. And, but she did offer her partnership. She did. You know, in the very beginning, she said, let's go into business, let's do this together.
Yeah.
She did all.
Yeah, she did say that, and in episode 1, and she was trying to railroad her way through too. That was like it was very domineering. Yeah, we have some things to talk about. Like, wait a minute.
Right.
I could see where Addie Mae was coming from her own wounding, but also I could see where her ego would be like, you just got here. What are you talking about? We have stuff to talk about. I helped you in your time of need. Could have been the part of Addie Mae's thought process, right?
Oh, yeah.
I extended my services to you in exchange for your services. Could be part of the thought process. You just stole my product after I told you no and tried to prove me wrong and did prove me wrong. Could have been part of that thought process. And you're coming in here now and telling me, oh, we have stuff to talk about. Hold up.
Right. It was a lot. And I felt that same thing. Right. It was a lot. And then for the other young lady who was sleeping with Madam C.J. Walker's husband,
Dora.
I think she was stealing product too, because it was not clear to me that she was supposed to be taking so many cases, because when she took that first case and she got CJ to walk her home, and he said to her, you want 2 cases, but she was really taking that stuff. I don't know what she was doing with it. I don't think they ever showed, but I thought, well, here it is, you're now being stolen from, as well. This lady is stealing more than just product. She's also taking your husband. So, and I'm not saying that was justification, but I did see that as a theme too. Here we are, moving in this circle of dishonesty,
deceit, and battle, constant battle. There's like a running theme of fight here.
I really did I've heard mixed opinions about people liking or disliking the boxing scene. But the boxing scenes that they would throw in there were so important to me, because it was a reminder that if you set out this day to fight, my goodness, the universe will send you items and things and situations and people to fight. Don't worry. As long as you keep the gloves on, you'll always have need to use them.
Yes.
That was what I saw there. Every time that scene came up, and I realized I said, you were standing in a harsh situation, these horrible things are happening. Is there another perspective to take here? Is there another way to approach this that would not involve you setting yourself up as a fighter?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I really think when she admitted that she stole the formula, that was her liberation right there. I think that was her liberation from the fight.
You're absolutely right.
She didn't fight it. Mm-hmm. It did. And then the last thing I wrote down was from Rockefeller, his quote that he said to Sarah when her workers were striking at her convention.
How about that?
How about that?
You're not going to sell the product because it will put us out of work, which I understood that. But I would like to show respect for my premises.
For my premises, this really was her last dream and vision, to have this huge convention, right? Because she had already been given the diagnosis. She may not have shared the diagnosis with many people, but she wanted to have this huge convention at her mansion to rally the troops, right, and bring them all together. And when they had the little mini protest on her lawn, Rockefeller said to her, "Workers are like children. You have to decide what's best for them." And I'm just going to leave that right there and let that sit right there.
I know.
Yes.
That was powerful too.
It was powerful, and what a message. I really just want to leave it there.
Hard pill to swallow.
It's a hard pill to swallow, and it really speaks to it reminds me of when I really was so desperate to leave corporate, desperate to leave corporate, desperate to leave corporate, and to help other women do the same if that's what they chose to do. I was just like, yep, that right there, that's the mentality.
Yeah.
You're
So you know what?
we're buying your time, and we're deciding what your value is, and that's the loop that he stated in there. Workers are like children, you have to decide what's best for them. That's the loop that I stepped out of. Like, yeah, no, I choose,
And,
I decide.
and the other part was that if they don't like it, fire
If they don't
them.
like it, fire them. They're
That really got me
dispensable.
because yeah, and so that really got me as a worker, right? Is to say that you're dispensable,
Yeah.
right? That and of course we all know that on some level, but you get in there and you help somebody else build their dream, and there's nothing wrong with that. But be careful that you don't use it as a substitution for building your own dream.
And also use it as a feeling, as the way you feel safe and secure. Your safety and your security comes from within, not, and so many people are seeing this now, and not from without.
Right, right. And oh, that's such a good point that you're making there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't make an external thing your source.
Your
Your source is the internal presence. I'm going to say divine presence. I say universal presence. I say God. You call it whatever you want, but you dig in there, you find that that is your source.
That's right.
It is not. It is, in as much as we would like it to be, whatever we've invested our entire life in, our profession, our marriage, our children, what our community, our country.
That's right.
That's
right. Our power is within, not without.
Yeah. And the only thing that, that I say this, I write this, divine presence of God within each and every one of us is the source. And I got to say, I say this phrase all the time. It is the gift and the giver of the gift, not my own phrase. I got that from Pastor P.M. Smith, but I'll never forget it. It's the gift and the giver that exists inside of us. It's not the tangible thing that can be gone today or tomorrow. I hope that doesn't happen to us, but we all know, many of us are not working the same job we were working at as our first job. And some of it is not by choice, right?
That's
so
right.
We know that when he said that, I tingled a little bit and I said, wake up, that song that wake up everybody.
Wake up everybody.
Wake up.
Woo, no more sleeping in bed.
that was our take on Madam C.J. Walker. And I gotta tell you, when I finished watching it, I called Keisha because I said to her, Keisha, I want to do a live on this because we have a program, a course out called The Brilliant Life.
Yeah.
And when I got through watching that, I asked myself one question out loud. I watched it by myself. I said, did Madam C.J. Walker have a brilliant life? Did she have a brilliant life? And it was, for me, a resounding no.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have to agree. There were aspects of it that were brilliant, but it was not wholly brilliant.
No. I saw a tremendous rags to riches story. Tremendous rags to riches story. But I did not see healthy, loving relationships. I saw that one relationship with her daughter, and that it was a beautiful relationship. I love how she accepted her daughter. She loved her daughter irregardless. Yeah. None of that mattered. It was her daughter, and I loved that. I loved her daughter too, and I loved Tiffany Haddish playing the role. I've heard mixed reviews about that too, but I thought she did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I did too. I enjoyed her.
And so I loved that relationship, but I would have loved for her to have a full life of happiness. Even at that party when they were thinking that Booker was coming to the party, that wasn't even about happiness and relationship. It was just about business.
Strategy, endorsement.
Right. It wasn't have a good time. I just didn't see that for her. And I would want that for every one of us on the planet, to have health, wealth, and relationships in balance. I didn't see that for her.
No. So for The Brilliant Life, it is our online coaching program. And here's what you get. 9 weeks of powerful training, coaching, and processes to lead you through 4 powerful healing breakthroughs. The training videos are dripped out weekly, right, Dr. Dravon?
They are.
And you have lifetime access. And here are the 4 stages of the healing breakthroughs. The first healing breakthrough is healing your foundation of power. And this is deeply effective healing that focuses in on the root sources of your current wealth, confidence, and joy set points. And you'll know that you're done when you feel calm, centered, powerfully present, focused, connected, and inspired. And the second healing breakthrough is healing your energy of power, which opens you up to that next desired level of personal and financial empowerment and freedom. And you know you're done when you can feel your powerful feelings, your rising passion, your own awesomeness, your true needs, your true desires, and the softer side of you that deserves care. And then the third healing breakthrough is healing your power to take action. And during this healing breakthrough, you step into the more empowered version of you, the part of you that is confident, joyful, enthusiastic, fearless, and real and vulnerable. And you can share that story. And you'll know you're done when you feel your inner value, a new confidence, and a new enthusiasm, and a willingness to take risks, and also to shine with an excitement to speak up and act in brand new ways. And the fourth healing breakthrough is healing the power of self-love, which produces more love flowing into your life, and balance, which includes loving relationships coming into your life. This 4-category breakthrough healing approach is comprehensive, and it's systematic because it focuses in on healing the multiple aspects of yourself for true transformation of power and empowerment. Did I get it all?
You did. I'm mesmerized, and I want people to know that your life is your life. It is, I mean, it is such a light bulb for me, because it's not your job, it's not your relationships with your significant other, not even with your children. We love our children. We love our children, right? It's your life, and it's not meant to be mediocre. It just
Not at
isn't.
all.
It's meant to be brilliant, like the brightest star on the darkest night, twinkling away. Meaning that no matter what's going on in the external world, you are living your brilliant life. That's what I want for everybody. That's what we want for everybody. That's what I wanted for myself when I started off on this journey so many years ago. And that's what we teach in this program. So check out The Brilliant Life. You'll be glad that you did.
You'll be glad that you did. I'm going to add the link for more information on The Brilliant Life in the description box above.
Yeah. So that's it for us tonight, guys.
That is it for us tonight. What are we watching next, Dravon?
Have you guys seen Juanita?
Let's do Juanita. When do you want to talk about that?
Yes, guys, listen, go watch Juanita. It's on Netflix. I say her name all the time wrong.
Alfre Woodard. Alfre Woodard is the actress?
Alfre Woodard. You guys know her. She's tremendous actress.
I love that movie.
Please go see Juanita. Oh my goodness. We're gonna talk about that next. We gotta talk about Juanita.
When do you want to talk about it? Because that's another hero's journey, brilliant life story.
Yes. Let me think. Well, we're in the house. But you guys want to discuss movies on Friday? How about movies on Friday? I would normally go out on Friday and do something social, but we could talk about movies together on Friday. Let's watch Juanita.
Let's watch Juanita. Dravon, I got to go cook my daughter something.
Yes, yes. We're playing dominoes tonight, so I gotta go.
Oh, have fun. All right. I will.
I love you guys.
I love you. I love you guys. And I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
See you Friday. Bye.